This is the plaintiff, Cherie Morgan. She says she hired the defendant to redo the floor tiles in her mudroom and pantry. And the guy did such a horrible job, it's unsalvageable. And she needs to have it entirely redone. She wasted $3,238.92 and is suing him for just that today. This is the defendant, Ed. He says he has 5-star ratings for his work and thinks the plaintiff is some sort of scammer who goes around getting reputable people to do work around her house, then stiffs them. Bottom line, he did a great job, and he deserves to be paid and is the one owed money today. He's accused of causing tile trouble. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $2,500 for additional monies owed.
All parties, please raise your right hand. People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Leon now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Morgan, you hired Mr. Ed to do some work on your home. What was it you hired him to do?
To replace the tile floors in 2 pantries and a mudroom.
Okay, and how much were you supposed to pay him to do that?
Well, he had originally come out to give me an estimate on my master bathroom, and that estimate was, I believe, $5,600, but I wasn't ready for the bathroom yet since I didn't have all the supplies. So what I did was, since I had all the floor tiles, I asked him to start on the pantries and the mudroom, but I didn't actually get a separate estimate on that ahead of time. And so after he had done a couple days...
Wait a minute, hold on. So what were you supposed to be paying for the pantries and the mudroom? That's what you had. You have a contract for something he didn't do, but you don't have a contract for what you did have him do.
Right,
Really?
so after he started, I made a mistake there. That was a big mistake on my part.
Okay, so go on.
Right, so after he started the work, I asked him, I said, how much, I realized I didn't get this estimate from you. How much do I owe you for this? And he told me $100 an hour.
Okay, and you said?
Well, he'd already started the work, and so I had paid him that amount.
So that was fine. You didn't say, okay. And so what happens with the work?
The first day they came in, they did demolition of the previous tile that was there. They didn't protect anything in my house. They didn't put up any plastic over my pantry items. They hung 1 sheet of paper in the doorway of my pantry by nailing it into the wall. But none of it was taped to the walls. It just hung by 2 nails and just, swayed as they did the demolition. So the dust billowed all through my house. The pantry was full of dust. He came in that after, and actually he didn't do any of the work. His son and his son's friend did the work. And I had specifically asked him when he initially came for the estimate, do you do the work yourself or do you subcontract your work? And he says, oh no, I do it, and my son and his friend. Ed didn't do any of the work actually, just his son and the friend did it. And so when he came in that first afternoon to check on the boys and how they were doing, I heard him tell the boys, oh, you should have covered all this up. You should have covered this with plastic. But they didn't, and it made a huge mess. So that was the first day.
Okay.
The second day, they came in to start laying the tile. And there were some issues trying to figure out what kind of pattern I wanted, but that was, we got that. I thought we worked that out. His son started laying tile. I left because I had things to do. I came back, and it was a disaster. The grout lines weren't straight. The tiles weren't level. You could look across the tiles and see how some of them were higher or lower than others. Later on, because you're not supposed to walk on it for 24 hours. So later on, when you did walk on it, you could step on one end, another end would pop up. Cut lines were wrong. Their tile saw got dull, and they didn't replace it. They just laid the tile anyway with those jagged cut lines. They left mortar everywhere. I mean, it was such a mess. Well, some of that was on the second day.
Yeah, they really did.
Yeah, that's when I told him there's problems. And I sent him a text that after the first day, I said, what can you do about tiles that aren't level? And he says, we'll deal with it in the morning. So I gave him the chance to try to make it right on the third day. And he says, oh yeah, we'll take care of it. And so they started working again, and I left again. And when I came back after the end of the second day, it was even worse than it was before. And so I finally decided that I was just going to have to pay someone to tear it out.
So at some point, did you contact Mr. Ed and say, hey, you need to come over here and fix this? Or how did that go down? How did you tell them you're fired? I'm trying to figure out how your relationship with them ended.
So I sent him a text. I said, there's some issues with the tile here. And I started sending him some pictures. And he has his read receipts turned on his iPhone. I could tell he was reading the text messages. And the last message I sent him was, there are issues here that I cannot resolve myself. Will you please come back out here and look at them? And he never answered me. He completely ghosted me after that. So at that point,
had you paid him any money?
He asked me to pay him for the first 2 days at the beginning of that third day.
And had you?
So I did. I sent it to him by PayPal. He wanted me to send it cash out.
How much did you pay him?
$1,600.
And did you contest that money with PayPal?
I did. I had sent him a certified letter. And when
so what have you paid? I'm sorry, just listen up. Did you end up paying him $1,600 or did you get that money back from PayPal?
I got it back from PayPal. Yes, I got it back.
Okay, so what have you paid him for the demolition? Zero?
Zero.
What demolition did he do?
He took out the tile that was in my mudroom and 2 pantries.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. And you are complaining of their workmanship, but you did fire them and not let them come back in and clean, although they shouldn't have left that day and left mortar in places. It was kind of messy.
Right.
But the bulk of your lawsuit is as a result of the walkway. So let's see some pictures of the walkway, and then I'm going to hand the floor to you, Mr. Ed, because I'm dying to hear about this.
That's my walkway. That hole was not there before. That's just more damage.
These bricks don't look like they're in great condition. I don't know.
I mean, they were. It's an older.
These are very old bricks.
Correct. So that's what it looked like after they left.
Mr. Ed, what's going on here? How old is your son?
20.
Okay. Maybe he hasn't had the training that he needs to have, but why are there mortar stains everywhere? Why isn't he covering his workspace? And why isn't he protecting the pantry? Because there's mortar spilled like in a lot of places. Let's look at the pantry, because I've had this happen before, and this makes me nuts. The whole point of putting up the visqueen is so that this not happen. Did you not train them how to do that properly so that dust won't get into the pantry?
I did tell them that we should have covered this with plastic. I said, but before you leave, make sure you clean her house. Don't leave her house like this.
Okay, so she says that she texted you and that you ghosted her. Can you talk to me about that?
She texted me the first day about tiles not being on level. So I told her I'd be there the next morning. We get it all straightened out. So we got there the next morning. I seen the ones that she was talking about. We got them straightened out. And, we clean up after we're done. It takes a damp sponge and to wipe the mortar off and the thin set, and we clean it out as we go.
So why am I seeing stuff looking like this if you clean it as you go?
She didn't give us a chance. She told us that she was going to finish it herself. She didn't want us back at her house, and so
right, with all due respect, as you go means that you don't leave that day until you've done it. That's what as you go means, not at the end of your job when it's hardening and creating damage. So although I understand what you're saying, that, she told you to get off the job, why did she fire you? How many days went by without you addressing it before she got sick of it and told you don't bother?
The very next day when I showed up, we straightened out the ones that she was complaining about, and I don't know.
Ms. Morgan, they come back the next day. They supposedly straighten out the problem. Right. Yes or no?
Well, they thought. I guess that was their idea of straightening it out, but it was worse the second day than it was the first day. Okay,
so then do they come back a third time or no?
I guess just to be clear, so the first day, like I said, was demo. The second day was tile. The third day was when they thought they were fixing
correction of the tile. I understand. So a lot of your lawsuit has to do, first of all, you changed the walkway. You put in brand new pavers. You're suing for $2,000 for putting in new pavers instead of power washing it. Why would I order him to pay you $2,000 to put in nice new pavers? That doesn't seem particularly fair. Why would that be appropriate?
Well, it may be even just a portion of it. I understand that. But, I mean, with those tiles being broken the way they were, there was no way to repair those broken tiles.
Right, my dear, but like you had the garbage I had on TV a second ago, and now you got this, and you think he's going to pay for it? That's not going to happen. All right? Now, you also were pointing out that there was $59.78 in damages. What say you about his answer, which is, you fired us. You didn't let us go back there and clean up. We couldn't go back there, even if you didn't like our tile work. I get that, but at least give us a chance to go back there and clean up. How are you allowed to complain about the mess they left if you told them don't come back and clean up?
I did ask him to come back. That was my last text to him saying, there are still issues here. Can you please come back and look at them? And that's what he never
That's
answered
what I
before.
want to
I
see.
did invite him back.
That's
Right,
what I
I
want
did
to
invite
see.
him
Let's
back.
look at your text. I'd really like you to come out and look at this. There are issues that I can't resolve. You read that
And
on
he never answered.
12/14 because you have read receipts. And did you ever answer that? Because she says that would be an opportunity for you to go out there and clean up. When had they done the job? December what?
That was they started on the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th were the days they worked.
Okay, so on December 14th, she's inviting you to come out and do something about things, and you don't answer her.
Yeah, I'm just not a conflicted person, and I didn't want to go there and just argue with her over something pointless. If she would have let us finish the job, she would have been happy.
No,
in
she
the
did.
end.
That's my point. See, I understand. So look, we all make choices. The question is, who do those choices cost? I understand if you don't feel like having conflict, but when someone says, please come and look at this stuff, and you don't go, you don't get to later argue in court, she didn't let us finish. She is inviting you back the next day to come and look, and you can clean up and then remove her argument that she should be paid for the mess you leave. You see, you can't leave that mess, not go back when she asked you to, and then argue she didn't let us go back, because then that's not accurate. Everybody stop talking a second and give me a moment. Oh, actually, you've got a counterclaim against her for $2,500. Why don't you tell me about that?
She only paid us for 16 hours out of the 21 hours that we were there. And
are you aware that that's been reversed by PayPal, according to her? Or are you not even aware of that?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I owe PayPal right now $1,600 that they returned to her. They said the only reason they returned it because she didn't sign where I sent the estimate saying that we would work for $100 an hour.
Well, I don't agree with PayPal on that. Because if someone sends you a text that says it's $100 an hour and you acknowledge being told that and you let the work continue, that to me is an acceptance of the rate of $100 an hour. Okay? So no. Mm-hmm. You don't get free demolition. I understand about all of the mess that was left. You're going to get something for that. I understand that you needed to pay for replacement tiles because you had to get rid of those. You're going to get that. I understand that you had to clean. You shouldn't have had to clean. You're going to get that. But that is not going to end your lawsuit of $3,000 on top of depriving him of a penny. That's not going to stand.
Can I ask a quick question? I don't know if it matters at this point.
No, you cannot. I'm thinking big thoughts.
My question was about the demolition because I had to pay someone else to do demolition all over again. And I do have a witness if you'd like it for that.
Yeah, I do want to hear from your witness.
Let me get you to raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor.
Okay, what is your name, please?
Jacob Webb.
All right, Jacob, were you hired by Ms. Morgan to come in after those fellows left?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were your impressions of the job that was done and why?
The job that was done is some of the most inexperienced tile setting I've ever seen. Every tile that was laid, the mortar that was trialed under each tile was still wet. Mortar should have been dry in 24 hours. However many days later, it was still as wet as the day it went on. These tiles, there wasn't a tile in there that was level to one another. Which is a dead giveaway to just inexperience.
Okay. Based on what I have heard, this is how I feel about this situation. First of all, I do not agree with PayPal that if you didn't get it in writing, you're not entitled to a penny. To me, I see it in black and white on the text that you say, she says, oh, I forgot to ask you for a price. And then you say the price is X. And then if she doesn't answer, she doesn't answer, but she doesn't object. And silence in the face of that is pretty much acquiescence. And she's testified here today that, well, what could I do? Yeah, that was going to be it. Now, having said that, there has to be worth to the work, okay? If there's no worth to the work, that would be the reason why she doesn't have to pay, all right? So I am looking at the tile, and I do see that it's incredibly uneven. I do see that the saw wasn't sharp. I do see that these fellas, these 20-year-olds you sent to her home, are kind of clueless about what they're doing. And maybe they weren't ready for you to not be on the job and supervise them. Maybe it's not enough that you go in the morning and say, blah, 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 and leave. So if there is no worth to the work, and in fact, you have created work for her, then on your lawsuit against her, I am ruling in her favor and finding that there isn't money that she owes you. And on her lawsuit against you, she did give you an opportunity to fix things, not only the next day with the tile, but also 3 days later when she asks you to come back and take a look at this stuff. She can't resolve it, and you ghost her. So, there's a mess. There's new tile that had to be bought. There's some paint damage. And I am going to award her some money for that. It's not going to be anywhere near what you're asking because he's not putting in new outside tiles for you. By my estimations, the whole cost of the tile, I'm going to award you about $200 for the mess and the paint and the broken item. That's $684.82. Verdict for the plaintiff. 0 on the counterclaim.
Thank you.
Well, the plaintiff recovers only $684. She had been suing for $3,200. That's a big difference. We'll get to her in a moment. Mr. Ed, let me ask you how you feel about the outcome. You're not going to get 5 stars for your work on this job. You know that.
Yeah, we down a couple stars on that one.
What do you think about the judge's decision? You get 0 on your countersuit. And really, would you agree you did a lousy job or not?
No, she didn't let us finish it. I don't have no unhappy customers. We clean up as we go. If she would have let us finish, it would have been fine. And then if she wouldn't have been happy, I would have made it right.
Well, as the judge put it, she offered you the opportunity to come back and you ghosted her, as she put it. So that's it.
Yeah.
Nothing. But you owe her what the judge decided, some over $600. Ms. Morgan, let's get to you. How do you feel about the outcome of this? You were suing for considerably more than you got. What's your opinion?
Oh, I believe it was fair. I mean, I figure the worst you can do is say no. I gave him the chance to try to make the job right. He says he makes his customers happy, but he didn't make any attempt to make me happier, to make it right. And so that's why I had to hire someone else to start over and do it all over again. And I'm very happy with the work now. It's beautiful.
All right. Well, very good. I'm glad you're happy. Okay. All's well that ends well. Harvey, what do you think?
So this is an interesting case where the plaintiff did allow the defendant to come back and finish the job, but the defendant refused. The plaintiff has that obligation to let him come back and at least try to finish it one time after it's not done properly. And the plaintiff did that in this case, which is why the plaintiff won. But you need to give somebody who performs a service at least one opportunity, unless it's horrific.
Hey, judges, what can I do when the neighborhood kids continue to play on my lawn? I've told them to stop, and I've told their parents, but no one listens. Should I sue them for trespassing? Thanks, Rawling. You meddling kids, get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn, you kids.
Yeah, but we're joking, but they're actually, it's a problem because if they get hurt on the lawn, he could be liable and stuff. If
That's
there's
true.
Something.
And they might be damaging his lawn. We don't really know. He didn't really say that.
You don't want people on your property. I get it.
So you're entitled to keep them off of your property, and parents can be liable for the trespass of their kids in certain circumstances.
What are the damages, though?
Damages are kind of sketchy so far, but, as an alternative to a lawsuit, he says he's already talked to them and that didn't work. There's other things he can do. He can fence the yard in.
Yeah.
Maybe that's expensive. Maybe he doesn't want to do it aesthetically. He can get a big dog, right?
Oh heavens, what are you...
Well, it might be, it could be an angry dog or it could be a friendly dog that he doesn't really clean up after very well in the yard. Make the yard less attractive to the children.
Seriously, what can the guy do? He's frustrated.
Well, our friend...
I think you're thinking that he's being ridiculous. I think you're thinking these kids could be out doing drugs and they're playing there. What's the big deal?
Yeah, it's a bit
But
much.
it is true, though. It's your property. You don't want these kids running across your property.
Right.
I would contact the police. I wouldn't file a lawsuit for trespass because you're going to look ridiculous to the judge because they've got real cases to worry about.
You should think about
but I would really call the police.
What about a fence or maybe it's a barrier of some shrubs or something? Just
succulents?
Yes, succulents.
Cacti. That's
You know what? When I was a kid, I used to wander around the fields around near my house because my parents both worked. And one of the things I would run into were these barbed wire fences from time to time. And they'd be insulators, so you knew they might be electrified. And I got a pro tip for you. If you take a big blade of really green grass and you just touch it to the wire first, if it tingles, it's hot. You don't want to touch it or try to climb over it. But
Where was your mother?
She was working.
Okay, I know, but where was your mother supervising you even from work? I worked.
There wasn't a lot of supervision.
Not a lot of supervision.